Here in a world where all hope seems lost, greater is He who resides in us. God, we stand unshaken.
Hey there, welcome to the sermon preview for this week. I'm Nick, this is Lance. Lance, great to have you back.
Thank you, good to be back.
So this week we are continuing in the series that we started last week. Why don't you tell everybody what series we're in and what we're studying?
So we're in our Unshaken series, and we're looking through 1 Thessalonians and just looking through Paul's writing to the church in Thessalonica and just kind of a word of encouragement, but also just some teaching in there as well.
Right, exactly. It's a really rich letter to this church that he was at for just a couple weeks, 3 weeks, and they are showing this unshakable faith, even in the midst of hostility and persecution. And so it's really important for us to recognize that. He was only there for a short time. This is a really new church, but they're showing this incredible faith, this incredible persistence and endurance in the midst of such hardship. So this week we're going to be looking at the next passage, which is 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. So Lance, as you looked through this passage, what verse would you say is maybe a really important verse that we should focus our eyes on?
Verse 12 catches my eye. It's pretty much everything that we're doing, just do it in accordance to God's will, but also just striving to be like God in everything that you're doing. Almost kind of the word picture is like, if God's in the room, am I going to do that? If God's there, and really just embracing this. God's with us the whole time. How can I be more like Jesus?
Yeah. I think the wording that verse 12 uses is this idea of walking in a manner worthy of God.
Yeah.
Right? So how do we walk in a manner worthy of God? So with that in mind, we look at the rest of the passage before it, verses 1 through 11, and we recognize that Paul is describing to the Thessalonians how he did just that, how he walked in a manner worthy of God with them when he was there with them. And in that, he's explaining how he shared the gospel and how he conducted himself and how he was living with them and loving them, right? All of these things, walking in a manner worthy of God. And it seems like we could get to the point where it seems like Paul was defending his ministry almost like he was insecure. But we recognize it wasn't because Paul was insecure. It was because if Paul's credibility was diminished, then the credibility of the gospel would be diminished, right? And so he had to make sure they understood that he was living in this way that was a manner worthy of walking with God. So as we go into this week, I would encourage you to read this passage and reflect on it. Read a couple of different translations even. Paul can be difficult to read sometimes, and so reading it in a couple of different translations gives you a better idea of what Paul's trying to say. And then think about this idea of how is Paul an example for you in how to live your life, how to live in the life that God has given you, in the ministry that He has given you with whatever context you're in, with your family, with your coworkers, with your friends, whoever that is. How is Paul an example for you in that? So I'm looking forward to Sunday. I hope you are as well. We'll see you then. Take care.
Nothing to fear.